The candles had already melted halfway down when I finally blew them out. Alone. 23 people had sung Happy Birthday to an empty chair beside me, and by the time Silas walked through that door, most of them were already reaching for their coats. "Ren, you didn't wait," he said, holding up a bottle of wine like it was an apology in glass form. "I waited 2 hours," I said. "The cake didn't." He laughed, actually laughed, like I'd made a joke instead of stated a fact. But let me back up, because this wasn't the first door he'd walked through late. There was the dinner with my parents, the one he swore he'd leave work early for. He showed up as the waiter was clearing my father's empty plate. There was my sister's engagement brunch, where he arrived after the toasts were finished and just missed the moment my sister looked at me and said, "Some things are worth showing up for." Every time I forgave it, told myself he was busy, that his job mattered, that love doesn't run on a clock. I made excuses to my own family on his behalf so often I started to feel like his publicist instead of his partner. He never lied about where he'd been. That was the strange part. He was never sneaking around, never cheating, never doing anything scandalous enough to give me a clean, dramatic reason to walk away. He was just late, chronically, casually. As if my time was a suggestion, and his was the only real currency in the relationship. I used to think a boundary had to be broken all at once, like a window. I've learned since that some boundaries erode instead, one missed hour at a time, until you're standing in the wreckage wondering when exactly the wall came down. My friend Delia had planned the whole thing. Balloons the color of the sunset I'd always wanted for my birthday, a playlist I'd sent her weeks ago, a photo booth in the corner nobody used because everyone was too busy watching me watch the door. He said 7, I told Delia, checking my phone for the 4th time in 10 minutes. "It's 8:30, she said gently, not as an accusation, just a fact laid down between us like a card on a table. By 9, people started leaving with hugs and murmured excuses of their own, early mornings, sitters to relieve, drives ahead of them. I smiled and thanked each one and felt something in my chest go quiet and still, the way a room goes quiet right before a storm decides which direction to move. At 9:40, the door opened. "Ren, you didn't wait," he said, wine bottle raised like a peace offering. "I waited 2 hours," I said. "The cake didn't." "Traffic was insane, babe. You know how the 5th Street exit gets. You know how a birthday works, Silas. It happens once a year on a specific day at a specific time. It's not flexible, not like your calendar. Why are you making this into a whole thing? I'm here now." That was always his defense. I'm here now, as if arrival erased absence. As if showing up at the very end of something counted the same as being there for the middle of it, the messy, ordinary middle where most of a relationship actually lives. I looked around the room, balloons drooping, a cake with 2 slices missing because Delia had insisted people eat before their rides came, string lights still glowing over a party that had already happened, technically, without either of us. "You didn't miss traffic tonight," I said quietly. "You missed a party again. You missed a dinner in March. You missed a toast in May. There's a pattern here, and I don't think it's traffic, Silas. I think it's a decision. Every time you decide something else is more important, and every time I decide to understand. I'm done deciding that." He set the wine bottle down on the table, a little too hard. "So what, one bad night and you're done?" "It was never one night," I said. "You just weren't there for the others, so you never noticed it added up." I didn't yell. I didn't throw the wine bottle or make a scene in front of the last few guests folding up chairs by the door. I picked up my purse, thanked Delia for everything she'd built with her own 2 hands while I stood there watching a clock, and I walked out to my car. He followed me into the parking lot, his voice climbing that familiar ladder from confusion to frustration. "You're really leaving your own birthday party because I was late?" "No," I said, unlocking my car door. "I'm leaving because I finally believe you when you show me what matters to you. You've been telling me for months, Silas. I just kept translating it into something kinder than what it actually meant." I drove home alone that night, and for the first time in a long while, the silence in the car didn't feel like punishment. It felt like the first honest quiet I'd had in months. No phone in my hand refreshing for his location. No rehearsed forgiveness waiting on my tongue before he'd even apologized. He texted, then called, then showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday evening, right on time for once, flowers in hand, as though punctuality now could unmake a pattern of 2 years. I've changed, he said. I set alarms now, reminders. I even blocked out your birthday for next year already, 3 separate calendars. There was a version of me, months ago, who would have opened the door wider at that, who would have called it growth and let herself believe a birthday remembered in advance could rewrite a birthday missed on the actual day. I believe you're trying, I told him through the screen door, not unkindly. But I'm not interested in being someone's practice round. You had 2 years of real chances, Silas. This isn't me punishing you. This is me finally reading the RSVP you sent with your actions, instead of the one you keep sending with your words. He stood on the porch a long moment, flowers lowering slightly in his grip, like even they understood the timing was wrong again. So that's it, after everything. That's it, I said. Some invitations only go out once. Here he's dating someone new now, someone who, from what mutual friends say, keeps a busier schedule than mine ever was. I hope he's early for her. I genuinely do. I don't carry bitterness for him anymore. I carry something closer to relief, the specific relief of a person who stopped setting a second alarm for someone who never intended to wake up on time for her life. My birthday this year was small. Just Delia, a homemade cake with slightly crooked frosting, and no chair left empty at the table because nobody was invited who couldn't be counted on to fill it. I blew out the candles at exactly the hour they were lit. Nobody made me wait. I realized somewhere between that first quiet exit and this quiet, full table that the healthiest thing I ever did for myself wasn't slamming a door in anger. It was simply this. I stopped holding parties for people who only ever showed up for the leftovers. Because a party only means something while the candles are still lit, and I decided I was done keeping the flame burning for guests who couldn't be bothered to arrive while it still was.